This is Abe Freetanzer from cinemadailyus.com, and I'm thrilled to be talking today with Jena Malone about her new film at Tribeca, Lorelei. How are you today, Jena?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Great. Thank you so much for speaking with me.
Mm-hmm.
What attracted you to this film and to this role?
It was a great script. I really liked Francesca's vision. I think she's an incredible writer. It's exciting to get an opportunity to work with first-time filmmakers. I liked the reclamation work that it was talking about with parents in reclaiming their joy, learning. And yeah, it was a story that I hadn't really seen before. I liked the reclamation work for a man in this story of how to reclaim being vulnerable, what it is to be a father, letting your dreams die and sort of be reborn again. I think there's just really some cool themes.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I was going to say that this film feels different than a lot of typical, getting out of prison, back to normal life stories, in that it doesn't really flip the gender roles, but it does. You don't have this very macho kind of guy, and it's just a little bit more intimate than I think I've seen in the past. Do you think that this is a really unique approach, or do you feel like you've seen other films like this in the past?
No, I've never seen anything like this. I mean, particularly, I think that it seems pretty traditional in the beginning. I think that there's, he may be a man that we've seen before, but his journey into kind of becoming a father and a partner is one that I've never seen, particularly because I think the way the Dolores character is written, if she was a man and sort of had decided to just leave her kids with her lover, that story we've seen so many times of men leaving their family to go and pursue their dreams, and we've never really seen the opposite. So it's interesting for a man to be the one left behind in a caretaking position, having to kind of right the wrongs of the mistakes that can happen from just being a sloppy human, as we all are sometimes. Yeah, I like it. I think that it really delivers a lot of catharsis for pre-existing biases towards men and women, particularly in parenting roles.
Yeah. And what did you relate to personally about Dolores most, and what was most challenging about portraying her?
I think it's always hard to step into spaces of shame, when you have to sort of portray someone who's moderately despicable, where their actions seem questionable or they're making mistakes that are hurting other people. I think that's always a really hard thing to kind of shoulder, but it's so important because we all have to live through that and go on through the other side of being like, okay, that was sloppy. Is everyone good? Are we still all good? Let's keep going, Yeah, I think it's also in my journey in parenthood. You don't want to make mistakes. You don't want to scar your children. You don't want to be bad mom. You want to be this great person, and you just can't be all the time, and I think that it was maybe cathartic for me to kind of play a woman who just naturally was not the best at it, who was really just trying to survive. Yeah, it kind of allowed me to kind of love that and not feel as shameful about those sort of really easy mistakes of parenting,
Yeah. And you have a really great co-star in Pablo Schreiber, who's somebody who I think I first saw him in Orange is the New Black, where he's somebody like the opposite of this. It is a prison context, but just so like despicable and terrible and sort of irredeemable. What can you say about him as a scene partner?
He's just so giving. He also transformed his whole body for this. He put on a lot of weight. And I had never met him previously. And it's funny, I just saw him last night at a little cast and crew Tribeca drinks or whatever. And I didn't even recognize him. I was like, oh, this is who you are? Oh, I had no idea. Like I met him in a different shape and body and a different embodiment of his, masculine. And it made me feel very like protective and in awe of what he gave, and just how vulnerable that was, and that transformation, and how he was so still found bravery in it, and bravery in, how vulnerable that is. And I just think he does such a wonderful performance. It was really nice to see.
Yeah. And especially as somebody who started acting at a young age, how do you feel about some of your younger co-stars in this film?
I love them. I mean, they were all super game, ready for it. I feel like you don't have to be trained or have worked for 1,000 years to be a good actor. I mean, I think that you just have to have the want, and good people around you to kind of show you how to do it, like stand here, do this, don't cry yet. The camera's not on you. There's like certain very technical things. I love working with kids, I think before I even had a kid, I'm very like mama bear on set, where it's just like, if there's ever any actors that are children, I'm kind of like, okay, they're mine. Like, I'll take them. Like, I know what they need. I know what we got to do. Like, let's make it, I don't know. I feel protective, but also like inspired by their journey of discovery, and want to try to make it the best that we can,
Yeah. And there's definitely some humor to be found in this film, particularly with the fact that the kids are each named after a shade of blue. How did you balance the lightheartedness with the sort of very serious subject matter?
That's sort of Francesca's job. I as an actor, you can't really balance tone. You just have to give a lot of choices, and then hopefully, the tone can be strung together by the edit and the final piece. Because that's life, you're crying, you're laughing, you're shitting, you're falling over. It's everything all together. And so you have to just kind of be brave enough to allow those moments to just come up and not feel like you're hitting a moment, right? You're not like, okay, now this is this. Now here's the joke. Get ready for it, because then you get in it and the joke's not funny. And what's funny is actually this, the right before you started crying, that's actually what was much funnier and endearing. So you, I don't know. I never think about tone when I am acting,
Interesting. So you were supposed to premiere this film last year at the Tribeca Film Festival.
Mm-hmm.
What has it been like having to sort of hold on to this a little bit longer? What does it feel like that it's happening now?
It's really exciting. I think everyone's pretty excited to have some form of normalcy come back into our lives. It feels like, big or little, we have a lot to celebrate together, so it feels nice to have a real thing to celebrate, instead of just celebrating getting in an elevator, or like celebrating like having dinner with a friend. Like, I feel like I'm in a constant space right now of just awe and celebration. So it feels nice to have like a real thing that feels like, well, that's normal to celebrate, like having a film come out. So it's just nice to share it with the world. I think that there was a lot of, I think independent films kind of got pushed really to the side, and they didn't have as big of a viewing space throughout the pandemic. So, and I think it's usually through independent films that we find most of our emotional catharsis in. So I'm really hoping that we can kind of dive back into that world, because there's so much that we need to parse through,
Yeah. Do you feel this film is particularly well suited for the Tribeca Film Festival of everything?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't think it's well suited or ill suited, they usually take on really cool, human beautiful films, and this is definitely human beautiful. So
Yeah. And you've had so many memorable roles in the past. I know one of my favorites, which I think is very underrated, is The United States of Leland.
okay, wow, yeah, that's a blast from the past.
And of course, Donnie Darko, which is something I saw when I was young, which really made an impression. Do you have any favorites, or sort of do you find that there are particular roles that stick with you, whether they influence the kind of roles that you end up, getting, or just what people recognize you from?
No, I don't know. I think that's one of the coolest things is like in 26 years, people respond to different films, Like, yeah, there's the more popular ones, but oddly, there's no one thing that everyone's like, oh yeah, that's the thing I know, that I really loved. It's sort of such a broad collection that it's cool that it makes me really believe in the shelf life of film, that like, you could make something 20 years prior and it's still affecting different generations and people at different times in their life. So
Yeah. Is there anything that you feel like you really want to try that you haven't done yet with film?
constantly, yeah. I mean, I feel like I've done so little actually. Um, well, also because it's embodiment work and you can only embody what your body can embody. So, I'm, 36 and I'm in a different body and it feels like a whole new world, whereas when I was younger, I was, playing younger roles of teenage roles and then, the 20s and all that stuff. And I don't know, I just feel like it's, the older you get in it, the world kind of deepens and I can sort of play any adult role that I want. It's kind of wild. It's so cool.
Yeah. Do you have any films coming up besides this one?
Yeah, there's a film called Porcupine. It's an independent film we made upstate New York right before the pandemic hit, and that should be coming out, doing the festival circuit in the fall. And there's a series, the last season of Goliath. It's going to be released this year that I got to be a part of, which was kind of cool. We shot it throughout the pandemic, which was sort of a wild occasion. And right now I'm working on a kind of a top secret horror project with a former collaborator, Carter Smith. We did The Ruins together. Yeah, that's it, I guess.
How has shooting during a pandemic how do you think that affects the finished product? And do you think it's something that will be noticeable in some way, just in terms of storylines and the way that things look going forward?
No, I don't think it'll be noticeable. I think it's only it'd be more subjective or contextual, where people will be like, oh, that was shot in the pandemic. And, but we haven't seen many things that are coming out, so we have to yet to determine whether it really changes the product or how it feels. But no, I don't. It's still the same thing. I mean, set life is pretty unique. It's very hard to take away what it is, even through pretty dire circumstances of having to be separate and masked and sheathed. And still, when I was on set, it was still a film set, the camera doesn't change, acting doesn't change,
Yeah.
it's just the behind the scenes that change, I guess.
Right. And while you're at Tribeca, have you had a chance to see any other films?
I haven't. I wanted to go today, but then I had to do these Zoom things. So I might try to go tomorrow morning, but I think it's all over tomorrow. So.
Well, I'm sorry to take you away from those, but I do appreciate you speaking with me today. And
Yeah,
I wish you the best of luck with this film and other projects in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.